Awesome. What are we going to talk about? Let's go to Luke chapter 4. Let's find out. Luke chapter 4. Jesus had just been baptized. He's being led by the Spirit into the wilderness, and he's having this dialogue conversation with the devil. Devil first attacks his identity. If you are the Son of God, do this, do that. And he goes on to say this. So, and he, the devil, led him, Jesus, up and showed him all the kingdoms of the world in a moment of time. The devil said to him, I will give you all this domain and its glory, for it has been handed over to me, and I give it to whomever I wish. Therefore, if you worship before me, say, worship before me, it shall all be yours. And verse 8, Jesus answered him, and he said, it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God and serve him only. Right? Jesus, you shall worship the Lord your God, serve him only. Jesus is quoting out of Exodus chapter 20. We'll jump there real quick. Some familiar words. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. Say, no other gods. You shall not make for yourself an idol or any likeness of what is in heaven above or on earth beneath or in the water under the earth. You shall not worship them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God. I will stop there. I was praying this week, said, Jesus, I thought I had a message in mind. I've had something brewing for a couple months that I thought I was going to talk about, and I was praying as you should do. What do you want to talk about today? And I'm here, and he says, I want you to talk about lifestyle of worship. Lifestyle of worship. I say that word worship, and you've already got ideas coming to mind. You got pictures about worship is for you. Lifestyle. What is a lifestyle of worship all about? That's what we're going to talk about. Lifestyle of worship. It's a big deal to me. I know it's a big deal to God. Let's start with lifestyle. We can kind of understand what lifestyle is. It's a style of how you live your life, what you're known by, the things that people recognize about your life. We all have a lifestyle. It's easy to picture when we think of celebrities, your favorite athlete, or, the president. They all got these extreme, lavish lifestyles, right? What about us commoners, us common folk, huh? Maybe you aren't millionaires. What about our lifestyle? Can people still recognize something about our life? Will they see something in your life? How does the way that you're living, what does that communicate to the world around you? If you were to invite someone to live with you for a month, what would they say about your lifestyle at the end of that month? What would the message your life lives? What would that preach to the people around you? Would they recognize the lifestyle that you're living? All right, it's a lifestyle. What are we known by? What are we giving our lives to? What are we living our lives in service of? And you have worship, lifestyle of worship. What is worship? Is it important? My wife and I are worship pastors here at the church. But does that mean that I'm living a lifestyle of worship? Do I define worship as the way Jesus defines worship? We live in a 21st century Midwestern church society. Do we understand what worship is really all about? We just came through a worship service, right? We spent 30 minutes or so in worship, singing songs, celebrating who God is. Is that worship? Is there more to worship than that? And so these are questions I began to ask myself, think about, talk to Jesus about, pray about. What is this lifestyle of worship? If this is important to you, then I want to ask these questions. And I really believe after just this week, and this is not exhaustive search or in-depth by any means, I encourage you to, after today, dive into this for yourself. Find out, ask the Lord, what is worship to you? What does that look like? But I really believe that a lifestyle of worship is a lifestyle of surrender. It's a lifestyle of surrender that comes from a heart that is in the right standing with God. And so worship is about surrender. And worship is about your heart. And we think heart, and we could immediately think of ideas of where the heart is important to Jesus, where he says, I see your heart. I see what you do. Matthew, I believe, chapter 7. Lord, did we not do all these things in your name? I never knew you. Your heart is what matters to me. We'll take a look at some verses later on, but the heart is so important and vital to what we do and our motives of operation in our Christian life. Heart is essential to what we do. And so having a heart that's in a right place, right standing with God, that's undefiled, that's unpolluted, that's not distracted by things of the world or our own personal poor choices. Having a heart that's in good standing with God is essential to a lifestyle of worship and surrender. A heart that's in a right place leads to a lifestyle of surrender and trust, and I choose you, and we're doing this together, and it leads into It bleeds and breathes into worship. And so when I say that word worship, we immediately have things that come to mind, right? We picture maybe some of you the throne room in heaven in Revelation where these elders are casting their crowns. There's creatures all around. And it's crazy and thunders and earthquakes even. We were gone. We missed the earthquake. I know some of you experienced that. You know, there's all sorts of things happening in heaven right now as we're talking. And worship is happening, bowing before the Lord in his throne. And we have these pictures of worship. Oh, it must be drums and it must be music. There's got to be electric guitar, right? Who doesn't like electric guitar? There's got to be that if it's going to be worship, right? There's got to be great songs. It's about how the songs make me feel. It's about the emotion behind it. Is that what worship is? Or is worship more than just singing? Is worship more than just coming together for 20 minutes and celebrating together and singing these wonderful hymns to Jesus? Is there more to worship than that? And like I said, my wife and I were worship pastors here. I first started learning how to lead worship when I was 18 at a house of prayer in my hometown just outside of Chicago, Illinois. I grabbed my sister's guitar. She never played it. I figured it's mine now. Started downloading chord charts, songs, teaching myself, started watching my friends play. Started learning how to lead. And by every stretch of the imagination, I would have thought that I was leading worship. I was participating in worship. I'm playing, I'm singing, I got an instrument, we're good, we're worshiping. But that is simply a part of worship. And that is not the entire picture of worship. In fact, that is an essential part of worship, and I don't want to undermine that in any means. I really believe that when we have a genuine love for God, that should look like song and celebration. It should look like everything that you see up here. That should be a part of your Christianity. As singing, you can't help but pour out your thanksgiving and your gratitude to what Jesus has done for you. And if that is non-existent, then I would offer to say that there's a disconnect in your relationship with Jesus. If there's not a gratefulness and a repentance and a constant desire and passion for him that looks like singing or whatever it looks like, even if your voice doesn't sound very good, who cares, right? Who cares? It should look like this thanksgiving, words coming from your mouth. That's a part of worship, but that's not the only part, and that's not the only picture. And I think sometimes we get confused in our Christianity. We think worship is one way. I woke up this morning and I was like, this is worship to you. I'm surrendering my life to you. This is my worship to you. So worship can look like song. It can look like service. It can look like surrender. It can look like my work for Jesus. That's all worship. And so I want to dive into that a little bit, if you don't mind, this morning. I think it's important to God, this heart condition we have, this proper understanding of looking at worship and what he considers worship to be. So there's this Greek word I want to use. I'm only going to use one Greek word today, I promise, not too many. And I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation, but proskuneo. Say it with me. Proskuneo. That's the word for worship in the Greek. All right, that's the word. Now you know it. You're brilliant. Share it with your friends. They'll look at you crazy. What this word means. So this is the word. This is a word that's commonly used in place of worship in our Bibles, and it actually means this. It's a picture. It means to kiss the hand like a dog licking his master's hand. It means to prostrate oneself in homage out of reverence, to adore, to fall upon the knees and touch the ground with the forehead. It's a picture. It's not a song. It's not lyrics. It's an action. And you think about a dog licking his master. It sounds kind of gross, right? We're not dogs. We're not going around licking hands. But that picture, what does that mean? To me, that's a picture of allegiance. Your allegiance. What do you give your allegiance to? Who is your master? A dog knows who his master is. A dog, as soon as you come home, I don't have a dog. I can't wait to have a dog one day. But it knows his master's home, right? And it's just, you're my master. I give you my allegiance. I'm loyal to you. And this picture of worship is, I'm loyal to you. I surrender. I bow before you. Here is my life. See, it's a picture. It's an action. It's not simply a song. And to me, that proves like this definition is more than just song, right? It feels like surrender. It feels like allegiance. And we can begin to ask ourselves, well, what am I surrendering to? Jesus asked that question a lot, who are you following? What are you following? To me, that really is a question about what are you giving your worship to? Who is your master? Who is leading you? Who is making decisions for you? Will you take the position of a dog at my side? Will you give your allegiance to me? That's worship. That's worship. That's this picture, this beautiful picture of worship. And so worship has to have surrender. There can be no worship without surrender, without this heart attitude of, I surrender to you. If you are in control of your life, there will be very little worship, if no worship, of God. There will be worship of other things. Right? We saw in Exodus, idolatry, selfishness. There will certainly be worship, just not of God. And worship of anything other than God, the Creator, anything other than Him, Jesus Himself, leads to this heart that becomes ravaged by sin. A heart that leads to poor lifestyle, that leads to selfishness, that leads to everything else ruling your life other than Him. And so a heart condition really matters. Really matters. I kind of hurried a little bit in the first service, but I want to just focus on that for a minute. Just the importance of the heart. Jesus, He sees our hearts. He examines our heart. He's scanning. He's looking. What is it that you really believe? Those questions. What is it that really is the foundation of who you are? And by every physical sense, the heart is the chief organ of physical life, our physical bodies. Without a beating heart that's pumping blood, and I'm sure nurses out there can define this a lot better than I can, but they'll know when your heart is not beating, there is no life. There's no life. Your heart is essential to life for your physical body. And when the Bible talks about heart, worship the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, all these verses about heart, and they're found in lots of places. The Bible is talking about something that's essential to who you are. And as I was kind of reading different articles and stuff this week, and I was looking at the heart and what does worship from the heart mean? Well, we tend to have a view that the mind and the heart are two separate things. I can live out of my mind, but I have an issue with connection to my heart, I make decisions from my mind, but my heart is just where my emotions are. But the reality is when the Bible talks about heart, it's talking about something that's all the above. And so I want to give you some kind of characteristics of the heart because this is what Jesus is after. This is what He cares about. And this is what we have to be protecting is this heart that He's given us, every one of us. Because again, a proper heart, a healed heart, a pure heart, where Matthew 5 says the pure in heart will see God. He cares about a pure heart that's undefiled. I keep saying that word because we're going to use that one in a minute, but this heart is what He's after. And so the heart, as much as it is essential to our physical life, our spiritual life, the heart is the center of all physical and spiritual life. It is your whole inner being. This is what the Bible means by heart every time you read it. The heart brings understanding, it brings discernment, courage, emotion, and will. It's the center of your character. It's who you really are. It decides desires, feelings, affections, perceptions, thoughts, understanding, imagination, conscience, intention, purpose, will, and faith. This is what your heart does. When your heart's in connection with Jesus, when your heart's in your life, it's leading you, it's helping make decisions, you're feeling, you're perceiving, it's your conscience, right versus wrong. Your heart is leading you in your life, whether you believe it or not. Your heart is engaged. And we can cut our hearts off, or we can choose to engage our hearts, and there are things that pollute, that get in the way, that destroy that. But where is your heart at? So we're talking about worship. We're actually talking about a call to examine our heart. Examine our heart. What is capturing your heart, captivating it? The things that you're beholding, it's influencing your heart. What are you spending your time on? What are you actually worshiping? Your heart is deciding those things. Surrender coming from your heart. I want to go to Matthew chapter 15. Jesus in a conversation with some Pharisees. I believe Steve preached on this recently. Similar verses at least. And they're offended. They come to Jesus. Why don't your disciples wash their hands? It's a commandment. And so Jesus is in response. He's saying, chapter 15, verse 7, you hypocrites. That's a good way to start, isn't it? Rightly did Isaiah prophesy of you. This people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far away from me. But in vain do they worship me, teaching as doctrines the precepts of men. After Jesus called the crowd to him, he said to them, hear and understand. It is not what enters into the mouth that defiles the man. What proceeds out of the mouth, this defiles the man. He goes on to explain that in verse 17. Do you not understand that everything that goes into the mouth passes into the stomach and is eliminated? But the things that proceed out of the mouth, they come from the heart, and those defile the man. Remember the word defile, meaning to make unclean. These things make you unclean. For out of the heart, say out of the heart, come evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, thefts, false witness, slanders. These are the things which defile the man, but to eat with unwashed hands does not make you unclean. The heart. What's interesting, he says in verse 8, this people, they honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me, and in vain do they worship me. Right? They're great at giving lip service. They're great at singing songs. They're great at honoring me with their speech, but their heart's far from me. He's saying none of that lip service, none of that song, none of that speech matters because their heart is far from me. Their hearts have been polluted. Their hearts have been distorted. They've been distracted by the praise and glory of man, their own selfish behavior, their own egos perhaps in the way. And their hearts being distorted is what Jesus is coming at. Your heart, everything from your heart, everything you say, everything that you do comes from your heart. So this is a big deal. Where you have an issue with worship, you have an issue with the heart. And again, worship not in the sense of song, praise, celebration. Worship in the sense of surrender. My life is not mine. My life is yours. Where you have an issue with surrender, an issue with trust, you have an issue of the heart. And I'll be honest, I'm not perfect. You probably thought I was. This guy's got a microphone. He must be perfect. No. I get angry. I get offended. I get jealous. I lose my temper at times. I get impatient. Got a 2-year-old. Right? My heart feels these things. I get distracted. My heart gets polluted. This defiled, to be unclean. It's like taking pure water and just mixing a little bit of mud. It's starting to pollute that water. Discolor it. And our hearts, we hold on to these things, and that pollutes our heart, which distracts us from seeing God the way that he intends us to, which leads us in a place where we're unable to actually surrender and trust, which is what worship is. So our hearts, when we allow these negative influences, maybe our own decisions that affect our hearts, they actually keep us from a lifestyle of worship. They keep us from a lifestyle of pursuing God. They keep us from a lifestyle of walking in this, of who he made us to be, which is carrying the fullness of his presence through this surrendered life. I'm making this exchange, my life for yours, Jesus. But when my heart is full of sin or my heart is full of pollution, I can no longer fully surrender my life. And so what do? How do we get this pure, undefiled heart? Right? The pure in heart, they see God. How do we get these pure hearts? The Father is after worshipers with hearts in right standing. In right standing. How do we get this pure heart? How do we get a heart that can be unpolluted or undistracted? Because we're going to be distracted. Things are going to surface. Voices are going to be speaking. Noise is going to be rising. One of the things about worship on this side of eternity is this is the only opportunity that we will have in our lifetime to worship through difficulty, pain, and struggle. The only time. On this side, I'll say it again, on this side of eternity is the only opportunity we'll have to worship God, to trust him, to surrender in the middle of pain and struggle and discomfort. When we cross over, guess what? No more pain. No more discomfort. It's a unique opportunity. And I heard that quote. I was listening to a message this week, and he shared that quote, and it just has been with me ever since. And it's been just chewing on that. This is a unique opportunity that we have as human beings on this side of eternity to worship through pain And a lot of times we want to get negative about the pain or the circumstances, whatever it is that we're going through, and resent those moments. But in reality, those moments present an opportunity for us to choose worship, to choose surrender, and to choose trust. Those moments present those opportunities. Without those moments, there wouldn't be a choice to worship. It's easy to worship when everything's going well. It's easy to worship and surrender and trust when your life's fairy tale. It's those unique challenges that present this opportunity to choose worship. And without them, we wouldn't be in a place to choose worship. It would just be happening. That's heaven. There will be a day when it will be free and easy to worship. But we get to choose on this side of eternity. I think that's amazing. And how we get there is by having this heart that's undefiled. And I want to put up a verse in Proverbs, this is 4:23, and it says, "Watch over your heart with all diligence." Say, watch over your heart with all diligence. Watch over your heart with all diligence. What that means, to watch over, is to guard from danger, to keep close. It's like you're protecting something that's been entrusted to you. Keep close and guard and protect your heart. And diligence, which I found fascinating, is actually a term that's used for jail. Put in jail. With diligence, protect that thing like it's in jail. Don't let it out. Guard it. Let nothing come in. And protect it close. Keep it close. That's the picture of diligence. Protect your heart with diligence. And what's beautiful about repentance is it helps us to reset. It helps us to identify what we've allowed to sneak into our hearts by choice or by accident, been influenced. I don't believe these Pharisees. I don't believe that they said, from the beginning, we want hearts that are evil. Right? The reason they're Pharisees is because they're living a life in pursuit of God, to be holy. They're living a life that's intending to get this right, and yet they find themselves far off course in their hearts. And so I don't believe we always find that intentionally, but things happen. We get influenced and we get polluted, and so we have decisions to make because God is after worshipers who will worship him in spirit and truth. It says in John chapter 4, spirit and truth that will worship him with all that they are. The word spirit there, it's engaging your heart with all that you are. He's after, he says he's seeking to find worshipers that will worship him with all that they are in spirit and truth. With all your emotion, all your mind, all your will, all your strength, everything that you are is what he's after. That's what he's looking for, is scanning to and from, it says. He's looking for worshipers to worship in spirit and truth. In order to become those worshipers, we have to be able to examine our hearts, look for where we're doing well, look for where we have been on guard, stay on guard, and look for areas where maybe our hearts have been a little bit off straight, whether it's been worry or fear or sin, whatever it might be that comes in to try to pollute, to distract. Because clean hearts are what lead to a life of surrender. They're what lead to a life of worship. Biblical worship. That lead to this ability to give our allegiance to Jesus. Our full allegiance and full surrender and full attitude and focus on you, the King. Who will your master be? That's a common question around here, isn't it? Who will your master be? Who will you give your allegiance to? Worship has to do with that. Who will you give your allegiance to? And so last week, what happened was we opened up the altar. You can see the worship team's up here. And we're going to do the same thing this week, is we're going to go into a time of response. It's not pressured. It's if you feel the Lord speaking to you and stirring something up in you to respond to whatever's been said today. I've already forgot what I said, but whatever, hopefully you haven't. And if there's something stirring in you, now is the time to respond. And so the worship team, they're gonna play a song, they're gonna sing, it's gonna be awesome. But what it really is, it's a moment between you and Jesus to connect your heart with his and to really examine yourself and say, are there areas where I'm falling short? Are there areas where I've let my heart become polluted or defiled? How do you want me to respond to this? That's a great question. Jesus, how do you want me to respond to this message, to what I'm hearing this morning? What is it that you want to say to me? And so during the song, the altar up front, it's open. You can come on up. come worship, come sing, come surrender to him. You guys can begin to come up now if you want. And it's just, again, it's time for you to focus on him. In a little bit of time, you'll probably have some pastors. They'll come up, our ministry team, they'll come around and pray for you. If you're up front, it's you indicating that, hey, I'm okay if you want to come pray for me. But really, it's a time for you to respond. So I'm just going to pray, and I'm going to invite you to come on up. Jesus, we're so thankful for you. We want clean hearts. And so, Father, wherever there's areas in our life where we've allowed to be defiled, where we've allowed our hearts to be polluted, we ask that you would forgive us, and we repent, Jesus. And we turn to you this morning, and we want clean hearts. We want to be able to see you. We want to be able to fully surrender to you. And wherever there's things that are holding us back, we say this morning that we're sorry, Jesus. We ask that you would forgive us, and we ask, Holy Spirit, that you would come, that you would speak to our hearts, that you would encourage us, and that you would fill us even now, that you would fill us. Even now, you come and fill us. We give our allegiance to you. We give our allegiance to you. We surrender to you, Jesus. Thank you that you are God. You are God. You are God. And we worship you. We serve you.
Seek your face to know your
Jesus. We are after you. All of our days, we surrender to you, Jesus, today. We surrender. You're all we want. You're all we need, God. We love you. Just tell him how much you love him this morning. We love you, Jesus. We love you, Lord. We love you, Lord. You are good. You are so good.
We love you. We love you, Lord. You're the one we came here for.
Come on, let's sing this out. Let's sing this out to him.
We love you, Lord. You're the one our hearts adore. We love you. We love you, Lord. You're the one we came here for. We love you. We love you, Lord. You're the one who our hearts adore. We love you. We love you, Lord. You're the one we came here for. We love you.
Let's respond to him today. Respond to Jesus.
Love you, Lord. You're the one our hearts adore. We love you. We love you, Lord. You're the one we came here for. We love you. We love you, Lord. You're the one our hearts adore.
Respond to Jesus today. Respond to him. It's a choice you have to make. He won't force you to respond. The band's going to continue to play for a little longer. If you still would like ministry or prayer, make sure you make your way up to the front.
Thanks for watching the Father's House Orville YouTube channel, but don't stop there. We'd love you to subscribe to our channel so that you never miss a live service or a video. Help us spread the message of Jesus by sharing this video with your friends. You can also support the Father's House financially by clicking the Give button. Thanks again for watching today, and we hope to see you again soon.